The man running the plastics industry said this in 1989, on the record. If the public thinks recycling is working, they won't be as concerned about the environment. That was not a slip. That was the plan. 37 years later, 94% of the plastic in your house is still going to a landfill, and you are still sorting it every week for free. This video is about how that plan was built and why it is still running. 3 things in order. A news event that taught Americans to panic about garbage, a hotel meeting that turned that panic into cover, and 1 law passed by 7 US states in 4 years that the system was designed from the beginning to prevent. You have a bin in your kitchen. This is the story of what it was actually built to do. March 22, 1987. A tugboat pulls out of Long Island, New York, dragging a barge called the memo 4000. On the barge, 3,168 tons of garbage from Islip, a suburb of 90,000 people that had just run out of landfill space. The plan was simple: tow the trash to North Carolina, dump it, come home. North Carolina refused it. Louisiana refused it. Mississippi, Alabama, Mexico, Belize. All refused. For 6 months, the memo 4000 drifted 6,000 miles up and down the Atlantic coast with a cargo of rotting household waste, and national television covered it every night. Johnny Carson made jokes about it. Phil Donahue did an hour on it. Greenpeace hung a banner reading, "Next time, try recycling." The barge finally limped back to Brooklyn, where its cargo was incinerated. The exact outcome it had started with. But by then, the country had a new fear. We were running out of room for our own trash. Here is the part that was not on television. We were not running out of room. A US EPA study in 1988 found that if the entire country's garbage for the next 500 years were compacted and stacked, it would fit into a landfill 35 miles square and 100 feet deep. 1 landfill, for everyone, for 500 years. The crisis was real for Islip, New York. It was not real for America. But by late 1987, 65% of Americans believed we were in the middle of a national garbage emergency. That belief was the opening a small group of men had been waiting for. 18 months after the barge came home, 6 men sat down in a hotel in Washington, D.C., to decide what the rest of us were going to believe about plastic. One of them is the man you just heard. December 1989, the Ritz-Carlton, Washington, D.C. The quote that opened this video comes from a memo Larry Thomas, president of the Society of the Plastics Industry, circulated before the meeting. The memo was obtained 30 years later by NPR and PBS Frontline. It is real. In the room, senior executives from Exxon, Chevron, Amoco, Dow, DuPont, and Procter & Gamble. The companies making the plastic, the companies putting it in the bottles. Together, they controlled the resin supply for most of the consumer goods on an American supermarket shelf. They had a problem. 20 US states were drafting bills to restrict plastic packaging. Consumer pressure was building. The cheapest industrial response, funding public recycling, was internally a known loss. Thomas's own memo said it. Recycling cannot go on indefinitely and does not solve the solid waste problem. But the memo also said something else. The public believed recycling worked. And as long as that belief held, the legislative pressure would ease. So they funded the belief, not the process, the belief. 3 years later, in 1992, the Society of the Plastics Industry introduced the Resin Identification Code, the number inside the 3-arrow triangle, 1 through 7, stamped on the bottom of almost every plastic container sold in America. The 3 arrows are the universal recycling symbol, but the symbol is not a claim. It is identification only. The industry's own internal documents, which the Attorney General of California published in 2024, confirm this was the design intent from the start. In plain language, the triangle on the bottom of your yogurt container is not telling you it is recyclable. It is telling you what kind of plastic it is. The symbol has no legal meaning. It never did. Of the 7 codes, only 2, numbers 1 and 2, are reliably recycled in the United States. That is PET, your water bottles, and HDPE, your milk jugs. 3 through 7 are, for practical purposes, garbage with a symbol on it. If 5 out of 7 codes do not actually get recycled, why does the system still exist 34 years later? Because someone is being paid to keep it running. And it is not the recyclers. There are 3 reasons the recycling system survived the revelation that it does not work. The first reason is municipal. Your city pays to collect recycling. Your city does not pay to process it. The gap between collection and processing is called contamination, the wrong items in the wrong bin, and in the United States, the contamination rate is about 25%. 1 in 4 pieces of material in a curbside bin is not actually recyclable in that facility. The facility sorts what it can, compacts the rest into bales, and sells the bales. Until 2018, 3/4 of the United States' recyclable exports went to one country, China. And in January 2018, China passed a policy called Operation National Sword, which banned the import of 24 categories of foreign waste and set a contamination threshold of 0.5%. The average American bale was at 25%. Overnight, the United States lost its biggest customer. The second reason is economic. Virgin plastic, brand new plastic made from petroleum, costs about half what recycled plastic costs to produce. That is from a 2024 report by the Center for Climate Integrity. In a commodity market, when the new product is cheaper than the recycled one, the recycler loses every time. There is no market pressure fixing this. There is market pressure making it worse. The third reason is rhetorical. Every few years, the industry announces a breakthrough. In 2018, it was pyrolysis, chemical recycling that would dissolve mixed plastics back into oil. Industry trade publications called it the future. The National Law Review in 2024 tracked the actual outcomes. Regenix in Oregon shut down. Fulcrum in Nevada shut down. A plant in Ashley, Indiana shut down after 4 months of operation. In almost every case, the plant used more energy than it recovered, and the recycled product was fuel oil, which is not recycling. It is burning plastic with an extra step. Reuters reporting January 2024 put it in one sentence. Fewer than 10% of announced advanced recycling projects in the United States are operating at commercial scale. The breakthrough is the same breakthrough it was in 1989, a press release. This is the part where most videos end. The system is broken. Nothing can be done. The music swells. That is not where we end. Because while the industry spent 3 decades producing breakthroughs, 7 US states quietly passed the one law designed to change the math. The law is called Extended Producer Responsibility, EPR. In plain English, if you make the package, you pay for the disposal. Not your city, you. The brand that printed its logo on the bottle. Maine was first, in 2021, LD 1541. Oregon, 2021. Colorado, 2022. California, 2022, SB 54, the most aggressive of the 7. Minnesota, 2024. Maryland, 2025. And as of early 2026, Illinois became the 7th. The mechanism is simple. Each producer pays a fee per ton of packaging sold in the state. The fee scales with how hard the material is to recycle. Aluminum, easy, cheap fee. PET bottles, moderate. Styrofoam, multi-layer pouches, number 7 plastics, expensive. If a brand sells a lot of material that costs a lot to process, it pays a lot. The revenue funds the processing infrastructure. 2 things happen under EPR. First, the system gets actual funding. California's SB 54 will raise an estimated $5 billion from producers by 2032. That is money the city of Los Angeles did not have yesterday. Second, and this is the part the industry fought hardest, the incentive structure flips. For 34 years, it has been cheaper for a producer to ship a hard-to-recycle package than an easy one. Under EPR, the package that is hard to recycle becomes the package that is expensive to sell. For the first time since Larry Thomas sat down at the Ritz-Carlton, the math is on the recycler's side. 7 states, about 30% of the US population, and every year another 2 or 3 states are drafting their own version of the same bill. This is not a wave yet. It is the tide turning. So, what do you do on Monday morning? 1. Only put number 1 and number 2 plastics in your recycling bin. PET and HDPE, water bottles, milk jugs, laundry detergent jugs. 3 through 7, yogurt cups, takeout containers, plastic bags, styrofoam. Put them in the trash. I know, it feels wrong. That is the 34-year feeling the resin code was designed to produce. 3 through 7 are going to a landfill whether you clean them or not. Clean recycling of 1 and 2 is the only thing that keeps the bales you do send from being rejected. 2. Glass and aluminum. Both are infinitely recyclable with no loss of quality. Aluminum recycling uses 5% of the energy of making new aluminum. When you have a choice at the store between the aluminum can and the plastic bottle, take the can. That is a genuinely useful vote. 3. Anytime you see the phrase advanced recycling or chemical recycling on a label, on a press release, or in a commercial, that is the 2026 version of the 1989 memo. Treat it with the same skepticism. The 2024 National Law Review data is linked in the description. 4. And this is the one that actually moves the dial. Look up whether your state has EPR legislation. If it does not, there is an active bill in roughly 15 states right now. Your state senator's office takes constituent emails, and EPR is the one plastics issue where a 4-sentence email from a voter demonstrably moves a vote because the opposition is corporate and does not deliver votes. The bill numbers are in the description. One last thing. I want to go back to the quote we opened this video with. If the public thinks recycling is working, they won't be as concerned about the environment. In 1989, that sentence was a strategy. In 2026, it is an invoice. Every bale of mixed plastic sitting in a warehouse in Malaysia, every abandoned pyrolysis plant in Indiana, every yogurt cup in a landfill in Islip, New York, all of it was paid for by a public that believed the system was working. You have a bin in your kitchen. Now you know what it was actually designed to do. If this changed how you think about the triangle, hit subscribe. This channel is called Double Dipped. It is about the places where you are getting charged twice for something you already paid for. There are more of these than you think.